I'm getting better at this. Hello, hello, welcome. We are live on Wednesday of the week of Valentine's Day. So, welcome. And do any of you celebrate Valentine's Day, the people that I can see? Mm-hmm. Are you Valentine's Day celebrators?
I'm just getting together with my friends and drumming together tomorrow.
Nice. Getting together and drumming. Drums. Talk about the rhythm of the heart. Yeah, that's a good one. I have my moods around Valentine's depending on a million different variables, but I have very endearing memories of my dad doing sweet things for me on Valentine's Day. So I have a little bit of like a romantic thing around my daddy giving me a cake on Valentine's Day or something. Anyways, however you are enjoying Valentine's Day, for me, Christian holidays in general that have become celebrations for the kind of stretch beyond their Christian historical roots are really interesting to me. I mean, because really if we think about it, Valentine's Day is Saint Valentine. It comes from Christian roots, but I don't feel that in Valentine's days in any sense. I don't necessarily feel that connection, but yet Valentine's Day is such a big thing. So I don't know, those are always interesting for me. So I'm good with Valentine's Day. I'm good with any holiday that celebrates love. Because here at the Lotus Way, love is our religion, right? I say that all the time. So, give me an excuse to have a holiday that celebrates love. Sure. So, I thought it was nice because I'm like, on one level, Valentine's Day doesn't really matter to me. It's kind of when I intellectually grok the historical side of it and don't feel too rooted in that system. I'm like, whatever. But then on this other side of me, I'm all about love and the heart. The heart is a big deal in my medicine, so I can celebrate it. And that made me think about talking to you guys about the fact that I just want us to, if we do celebrate things, kind of think about why we celebrate them and what ways we use to celebrate whatever we choose to celebrate, and or are we just kind of accepting them as part of our culture, which there's nothing wrong with that either, but just to be aware of that and just notice if we're building a lot of our energy around celebrating something just based on conditioning, or if we've actually really thought about it and checked in with it and made a conscious way of being with it. That's, to me, takes us out of being a kind of unconscious consumer, follower, peer pressured thing that creates actually quite a lot of expectations around holiday times with family and loved ones, and instead find our special relationship with it and then create from there. So I love that, and I wrote this down, that in Finland it's called Friends Day. They don't call it Valentine's Day. They took the pressure off of the romantic angle and just said, hey, once a year, let's gather with the people that we love the most. And so that's just an example of how an entire culture shifted the perspective around a Christian holiday and made it something that worked for their culture. So whatever we're doing, it's all good. But it's because love is our religion here at the Lotus Way. In the spirit of this week, and specifically celebrating love, I thought I'd focus a bit on expanding our hearts, which, if you were in this class tonight, we got to do. I guided a beautiful yoga nidra that was actually challenging for a few people in this class because we spent over a half an hour in our heart centers. Whew. To really drop in there and to do work in there. That was a big thing. But that's, for me, getting connected to that place is a really healthy way to start approaching love, which we could talk about the word love for a long time, right? If there's anything that we all need more of individually and collectively right now. It's to find a way to be living from and in this space of love. And Bob Marley came to me all day today as I was thinking about what to talk to you guys about. One love, one heart. Right? That love, that heart, that level of love and heart. So if we can get there to that one love, one heart space, then again, every little thing is gonna be all right. Right? I mean, Bob had it, and most of the greatest artists and musicians get it, and how many cliches and poems really talk about this in such a either deep or lighthearted way. But it's pretty amazing how the heart has become this universal symbol for love over millennia in so many different cultures. Like, how did that happen? How did this anatomical organ get changed into a cute little heart shape that's plastered? It's universal. It's a symbol of love. And that's been happening for thousands of years. Why? Where did that come from? There's so much wisdom behind this. Elevating this anatomical organ to this major symbolic status. And in the classical Asian text, the heart is quite possibly the most discussed concept. And I'm talking about texts that are this thick. Like, if you look, the symbol for heart is everywhere. Because the heart is seen as the ruler of the whole body, the seat of our consciousness and our intelligence. And as I've mentioned different times in classes, the symbol that they used for thousands of years, Sheen, for the heart, actually was synonymous and used for the word mind as well. So they didn't separate the heart and the mind. Our consciousness and our intelligence came from this one source, Sheen, that over time, and that's an interesting thing, mostly got translated as the heart. But that's interesting because it was the heart-mind. We didn't put that place of consciousness up here in the brain. This was ruled by this. The intelligence came from here and then sent messages up there and every place else. So, most Taoist texts encourage us to not allow the heart and mind's desires to become too abundant. So one of those desires is love, by the way. And so for thousands of years, these texts actually asked us to keep our heart, mind clear. Even empty is a word that was used a lot. Empty the heart and mind, clear the heart and mind. Don't let them get too filled with all of these emotions. And when we do that, when we let emotions get too abundant in our lives or get distracted by our desires to experience even the pleasurable emotions like love, this is kind of when we get compromised, when we get mentally compromised, emotionally and physically compromised. Our heart needs to stay clear and open. So the concept of love isn't really discussed much. And that's another interesting thing. For thousands of years, it's not discussed other than one of these, actually it's one of the 6 fluctuating emotions that are secondary functions to the more fundamental aspects of our divine human nature. Those constant qualities are usually translated as compassion, propriety, integrity, selflessness, and wisdom. Those qualities are what the ruler needs to embody to really appropriately rule the kingdom that we are as a human. And then love, and some other, let's see if I listed the other emotions. Love, hate, likes, dislikes, sorrows, pleasures, cravings for these things spring up out of those constant states but they're more like the weather systems in our body. They're actually described in the classical Chinese medicine texts as the 6 weather systems, because they're constantly changing and moving around. I mean, love, I don't care if we're talking about love for your child or love for a lover or best friends or your favorite hobby. You know, this emotion, it's constantly moving around. It changes shapes and feelings and textures. That's what it does. And so to that extent, emotions, including love, are generally described as bringing our divine potentials out of balance if we're not careful, and throwing us and our systems into chaos. So it's interesting to consider this, that the philosophical and medical systems that have existed for thousands of years as foundational ways of life, especially that had the heart as the ruler, didn't talk a lot about love. Yet they extensively discuss living peacefully and happy lives and healthy relationships and in harmony with all things. But if they do talk about love, they talk about it with having caution, just like fear or desire for pleasure. It's just something to think about, and I'm happy to provide you guys resources if anybody's into looking at how these classical ways looked at love. It's quite beautiful to read the Taoist texts on these things. I might not be sounding as poetic and almost feel like I'm not trying to burst the romantic love bubble of Valentine's Day. And I think if I keep talking, I'll get to the good stuff that makes us be able to have an exponentially more profound and meaningful experience around holidays like this. So, and in that regard, the yogic texts, there is tons of discussions of love. I mean, Krishna and Radha. Do you guys know who Krishna is? The blue-skinned god that plays the flute and lays out in the fields with all the gorgeous female sheep herders and has this amazing devotional love relationship with his main consort Radha. And for thousands of years we have sung songs praising the devotional love that Radha has for Krishna. And in the yogic texts we have tons of stories of the dances between the gods and humans and their love affairs and relationships, and we sing and we chant and we celebrate this love. It's pretty cool. I'm into it. For this other person who just burst your bubble, by the way, right? But beyond these mantras and beyond these stories, what's amazing, if you go to the original source text from where yoga evolved, like the Tantra Loka, which is one of our main yogic texts, you'll actually find there's not a lot of talk about love in these original source texts either, and the teachings are much more aligned with kind of the concepts I was just talking about from Chinese medicine. And I think if you talk to Sanskrit scholars, even sometimes the things that someone was translating as love would be more appropriately translated as compassion, which is different than love. The compassion, I had told you, is one of these fundamental constants in human nature to explore. It's why Buddhism is so rooted in compassion. And even then, in Buddhism, I think sometimes the word love gets exchanged for compassion, and that's fine. It's all semantics at the end of the day. Okay, I'll give you that, but it's still, maybe those semantics are a little bit important if we want to really expand how we're experiencing relationships with ourselves and with other people. So, like I said, I know I'm sounding a little bit unromantic right now and very un-Valentine's-y, but don't lose heart. Haha, good heart. So my message really, nurturing the heart, the ruler of our system, nurturing the qualities of compassion, propriety, which is like respect, integrity, selflessness, wisdom. This allows us to gracefully navigate the natural emotions of love that come and go in our lives. If we focus on that, how love comes and goes in relationships, maybe lasts forever. But if it lasts forever, if love lasts forever in a relationship, I guarantee you it's because there's compassion and respect and integrity and selflessness and wisdom living underneath that love. When love doesn't last, it's not because of the love. It's because of those things. Does that make sense a little? Who's out there? Let's see. Nick is watching and my mommy is watching. Hi, you guys. I love you. So this is really important at this time in the world where so many are suffering with anxiety and depression, where politics have all of us in a tizzy right now, right? Literally, my heart, I love my relationship with social media. For the most part, it keeps me connected to so many people who I love so much with all those important underlying things. But my heart really breaks with seeing how some of my friends are in a really intense state of anxiety and despair right now. And I get it, I understand it, it's a scary time. So I think that's another reason why it's so important to have conversations like this and really get to the root of where we should be living from. And remember that all these other emotions are weather systems that are coming and going. Yeah. How do we do this? I mean, that's the... Don't I have the answers to everything? I hope so. How do we use... And right now, why don't we just use Valentine's Day as an example? How do we use weeks like this where we have opportunities where the universe literally says, celebrate the good stuff, right? But how do we use this throughout the year in a more expansive and sustainable way with our hearts and minds and love? I had a few ideas on this, and I wrote them down. So first is self-love, self-care, right? Self-care has kind of become a buzzword, I think, in the past decade, and for a lot of good reasons. It comes up so often in my sessions with patients. Things like this. See if any of these questions sound familiar to you. Am I in a relationship or situation that doesn't serve me? Am I being truly seen and met in my relationships? Am I doing what is needed in my life to live my dreams and do the things that truly fulfill me? Am I beating myself up because I haven't gotten as far as I hope I'd get by this time in my life? Am I lonely? Am I escaping into my addictions and distractions to avoid sitting and working with my darker thoughts and feelings? Am I depending on external events and places and people to feel good within myself? Does any of that resonate? So those are the kind of questions that, trust me, I've got them going on in me on levels, and I think are some of the most overarching themes of what I'm really hearing when people come into my clinic and tell me what's going on, even if we start out with, I have headaches or bad periods or my left knee hurts. By the end of the session, we're getting into the stuff that's going on in here. So there are 2 points I want to make here. One is that questions like these are all calling us to find ways to support and focus on our self-care, to explore what we might have neglected or forgotten to practice, and I say that word, it is practicing, as we navigate life. Every one of us needs to ground and center ourselves in ourselves before we can gracefully interact with the rest of the world, much less have one really healthy, intimate relationship. So self-care, self-love, getting grounded, truly being self-centered. If we don't get centered here, how much luck am I going to have navigating the chaos of any place else? If you're a dancer, I was a figure skater, I know all about getting centered in order to do a spin. Right? I fling myself around, but then I have to get centered and pull in to really make power happen within myself, that spiral. So self-love, self-care. This is about finding our way back to those 5 noble aspects of nature: compassion, propriety, integrity, selflessness, and wisdom. We've got to do that every day, no matter what relationships we're dancing in. We come back to the relationship we have with ourselves. So let's really look at how we're nurturing our hearts and commit to practices that support those efforts. How much time are we spending in our daily life, as we go to sleep, as we wake up, and throughout the day, making sure that we're coming from a heart-centered place within ourselves? Are we living from that place? That's what I do in my sessions with people and in these group classes, whether we're doing a heart-focused meditation or something else. And what I hope each of you guys are doing, and figuring out how to deeply connect to the center of your heart, so you're living from that place all the time. The other point I want to make, after talking about the importance of cultivating self-love, is that there can become a slightly sticky place with getting too deeply rooted in the self. Last week we talked about non-dualism a little bit. I don't know, you guys weren't here, I don't think. Maybe some of you weren't either. And non-dualism is either a familiar concept to you or not, but basically when we're looking at things non-dualistically, we're asking to constantly check ourselves for ways we're possibly getting hung up on one way of looking at things. And when we decide, and most of us do I need to take care of myself. I need that to become my priority. That's good, but we also have to be careful on that kind of path, because we can kind of get stuck in becoming self-absorbed. And that's where self-centered starts taking on the negative connotation that it has. There's a positive, happy, healthy self-centered, and then there's what my teacher used to say, there's a mantra that all of us seem to come into this world and grab onto, and it's the what about me? What about me? What about me? How do I deal with me? Me. And so we have to be careful not to get trapped in that. And in the case of love, although it's key to get centered within ourselves, and maybe with 1 or 2 other people, so, in our culture, Valentine's Day is often about our, maybe our mom or a partner, but a small group. We think of a few people that we're going to celebrate this special time with, other than amazing people who are going to go do drum circles. That's awesome. So you're already practicing what I'm getting ready to preach here. We have to be careful not to get stuck in our self-centeredness to a degree where we are then unable to expand from the center in ways that make life really meaningful, that make our relationship with ourselves and anyone else meaningful. We've got to expand. And our overly commercialized culture has managed to pose tempting reasons for us to not do that, to get self-absorbed. These are how now billion-dollar industries have been built up around self-care and romance. That's how Valentine's Day has gotten commercialized, right? They're banking on the fact that you either need to get, and this is coming from someone who is giving body work sessions, by the way, but you need to get a massage and roses and a fancy dinner and candlelight, right? There's all this kind of pressure that for some reason this weekend we need to go and spend money on these things. After our overly commercialized culture has managed to do this, and it's through cosmetics and clothes and spas, and I tease myself, even yogis and body workers and other health-oriented practices, we've all fallen prey to this self-care craze in a way. And then there's the commercialization of the romantic love stuff. These industries can leave us feeling like we need to spend a lot of time and money on ourselves and each other if we want to be loved. And so that's a trap. Even for me, this is tricky to navigate personally as well as professionally, since I'm dedicated to self-cultivation, self-care, and love. So here's the thing. Looking after ourselves is essential, but if we are not careful, we can fall trapped to getting overly focused on looking out for ourselves, or placing our attention and expectations onto just 1 or 2 other people. A partner is often the person that we do this with. And we start hoping that we can get all our needs met in these very small, dynamic relationships, even though they're profound, important relationships. But we can get over-focused. We can put so much of our time just into these things. We can lose sight of seeing the real need for a broader context where we're intimately connected to a larger community. How many of you feel intimately connected to a larger community? Yay! Yay! Awesome! Me too! I bet everybody out there is. So I'm preaching to the choir, right? I hope I'm preaching to the choir. And even though I do feel that, there's still a level of me that knows that that when I do start getting tripped up in my emotions, that's what I step into to get out of that. That I reach out into that broader community. That I remind myself that I have this really sweet connection, even though my teacher, who's like family to me, is on the other side of the country. 4 or 5 days will go by and I'll have some negative little tick in my head that I'm not clearing totally, and all I have to do is just either light a candle by his picture, or I'm lucky enough that he's alive and well and I can send him a text and get love back, or jump on a plane and go sit with 50 people who I have been practicing for decades with. So when our self-care moves us into these communal care situations, that we really begin to thrive as individuals and as a society. And this is, even though I'm getting to preach to the choir right now, I'm preaching to you guys so we can look within our circles of where this isn't happening. And certainly in the world where we're seeing a lot of pathology and a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, this is the missing link. This is what's missing. This heart-centered, heart-expanding, intimate dance with everything. Right? We're literally even told to keep that closed off when we're in a professional environment. It's not appropriate. Oh, it's driving me crazy. I'm really bad at those kind of environments. You want me to, would you like me to just rip my heart out and leave it at home while I got, are you kidding? And the teaching, when I was a school teacher, I got in trouble all the time. I literally got in trouble because I was teaching from my heart. I never do good in a corporate situation because I don't want to I get the need for these kind of things, of course, especially when we have jobs that aren't about touchy-feely stuff. But still, to remember that really for any system to thrive, we've got to bring our hearts into it. So that's why I'm here offering this community service, why I offer the other community clinics we're offering and all the educational opportunities that we're launching. And ultimately, really, it is about that. It's about, I want whatever people are doing to come into our community, to come into these sessions, to do the trainings that we're doing so we can figure out how to integrate this heart-centered, these philosophies and these practices that have been taught for thousands of years into every context, into every aspect of our worlds. And hopefully then we start building this heart-centered web that gets through everything. Then imagine Valentine's Day. That's my kind of Valentine's Day. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on this Valentine's Day and every day. So I hope you guys will join me. I want us to focus our deepest intentions on our sincere efforts to connect to and nourish our hearts. And then find every way we can to connect with every other person that we share any part of our lives with. Even the ones that are really hard to do this. Maybe especially the ones that it's really hard to do this with. If we are sharing any part of our life, can we do it from a deeply heart-centered place? Healthy boundaries, but from a heart-centered place. The original character, like I said, was talking about, even the classical character, I'm drawing it right now on myself, it's like this little smiley face that sits on its side in Chinese medicine for the heart. The actual original character was the shape, I want to not lose my place right now. Ah, so it was the shape of a closed lotus flower. That was the character for heart originally. So it's a really beautiful little closed lotus flower. And our job is to help that flower bloom. And that is from old Taoist, old texts. And how cool that I, happened years ago to name this organization the Lotus Way. And I continue to find all these beautiful old things. And so when I was sitting in class and our teacher Heiner drew this closed lotus flower on the board, and even people from China who were in our class were like, "What is that?" And he's like, "That's the original character for the heart." So I offer that to you from the Lotus Way, to think of your heart as this lotus flower. And on Valentine's Day, as flowers become a thing, just let your heart bloom. Let this kind of love that is weaved with these other qualities that we talked about today be where we live from. Be a little bit careful about getting too caught up in the desire for those fleeting, flaming, fun, fiery aspects of love. Let them come and go in our lives. Enjoy them totally, but don't get too attached to them. Just let them come and go, because that's what they're meant to do. Come back to this place of compassion, a little detachment, and let your heart stay clear. That's my Valentine's Day. So, I would love for us to end our time together by putting our hands on our heart. So really feel into your heart right now. And take a few breaths. Try and sit up straight if you aren't. And maybe you can feel your heartbeat. Feel your breath rising and falling from this place. If you have people, whether they're individuals that you know that you want to send love to, or groups of people in the world right now, because there are many who are suffering, entire groups, entire nations, entire towns, dealing with challenging things. People you know or don't know, but whatever comes to you, just bring them into your heart. And then let your heart expand and envelop with compassion. These people, give them love. Every one of our hearts has room for every single soul. Every tree, every plant, every animal. So with our attention on our heart and our intentions to send love out in whatever ways you feel called, I want us to share a few ohms. So we're just going to ohm as many times as you want for a few minutes. Breathe whenever you want. Come back in and out of the ohm as you wish. And let this love resonate. Collectively, we're creating a resonant field that reaches out and connects us all. whatever is going through your life right now, whatever you're going through in life right now, and however you're spending this time and however you acknowledge a week where we celebrate the heart. Let's come from this heart-centered place with everything that we do. If you're having any hard moments, come back to this place. Literally put your hands on your heart and feel into your breath, your heartbeat, and Om, and feel that vibration resonate both in you and extend out. Thank you all so much for letting me share my heart with you. Thank you. Thank you. Happy Love Day, everybody. Love Day every day. But especially this week. I'm going to go drumming. Take care, you guys. I don't know. Finish.